Hello, I'm Verdi Augusto. This is the Schumann Resonance Harmonics channel on Facebook and YouTube. Um, uh, Facebook was here first, I think, and whatever. Anyway, they work together. Um, all right, so this is a research paper. It's I would say the 30th of June. It's almost the dead smack in the middle of the year. Time's ticking. I have my little friends and my this shirt. I found it at RISD. They're throwing out some stuff in the art community, and just oh yeah, oh that's a gift from their little alien, and it's an ayahuasca session, with the aliens. So, speaking of health, this is health related. So, if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for showing up. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. If you are already subscribed here, hit the bell and, make sure the all is hit and check that you are still subscribed. And the more you interact with the channels, the more we percolate up and your algorithms. I've even seen my own videos percolate up in my own algorithm. Like, oh, okay, good. It's good public service. So, this is, you know, uh, I don't talk often, you know, I don't talk often about health, physical health. I do address I do address my comments. I talk about it in the chat and I give my input, but I don't do many. There's a few. I have it, the ringing and the vertigo complex, the suite, I call that. And that is the phantom tinnitus, phantom vertigo, uh, nausea, and a headache. The frontal headache, where it would affect the pineal, um, or even perhaps the top of the head. I'm willing to, just smack dead right in the middle of the head, the crown. I might accept that as well. But with a headache, you got to localize the headache, and the headache comes with the nausea. So in uh my catalog, I've done the analogy of magnetic induction and the piezoelectric effect relative to the vertigo and the phantom pseudo. I want to call it pseudo, but it's phantom. Um, like near ear, the phantom means it's not detectable by the medical reasoning. Uh, they do observations. They have tests for legitimate tinnitus, and vertigo is related to the inner ear complex. Okay, from my research. And again, as I point out here in the video, just this is a disclaimer: I'm not a medical person, and largely this is why I don't deal with medical issues because I don't have an input on the medical thingamadoodle, right? The medical doohickery uh hickory dickory, you know, dock. So me and my guides are working within my realm of practical experience, and that leads me as a technician. So, I'm interested in the minerals and geographical stuff. I've been studying just as a personal note to me, I'm still here in the preface phase, my introduction here. I'm still I've studied geography, not the math stuff and all of that, but um, the geology, the study of the planet itself. And in doing more of this research on the Schumann and legitimate true Schumann detection versus as we have these discussions about VLF monitoring, which goes with the seismic activity, that's a different thing. And I've done, expositions on that, explaining, the difference between the earthquake detection and the true Schumann resonance and what they're doing and what their things and deals are, their dealios are. And it's in my catalog. Uh, so there is actually a good core of you, certainly the terrific 10 of you who have going through and seen that. You've already, you've been contemporaneous, as even I will put it, that you were there at the time that those videos were put out, so you would have seen those, right? So right, so I'm circumspect. I'm circumspect about medical issues, and whereas the on the technical engineering aspect of it, you being earth crystals themselves, you being part of the earth, you're the piezo and the fish, and as well, I've done a video, the ololith, that's the crystals and the fish, and that give them the magnetic direction. Ololiths. That's a mouthful. OLO, just spelled just like it's pronounced. OLOLITHS. And these are just crystals that grow in the inner ear and where all with the fish, and so that's one of the seminal papers on this topic is I can't even remember the guy's name, but it's the property of ololiths in fish or something close to that. And so I have it even on my thing. Actually, hold on. Okay, so here it is. Good. Can we see it? Oh, you can't even see it. All right, whatever. All right, so that's a waste of. Sorry to waste that 3 seconds to have seen this. Too much glare. It says the piezoelectric property of. Oh, this is it. Otolith. That's it. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. OTOLITHS. Again, this is the seminal paper. It's in Science, and I'm accessing this through AAS. Oh, good God, I can't even. Uh, AAAS. I don't even know what that's. Science. It's Science Mag. All right, whatever. So the author is Robert Morris and L.R. Kittleman. Robert W. Morris and L.R. Kittleman. And this was Science 20 October 1967. Volume 158, issue 3799, pp pages 368 to 370. And it basically, I'll read to you what it says. This is they give me the abstract here. Article usage, and giving me the abstract. Hold please. This would drive me crazy if I was on your end. Hold please. Okay. All right. So again, Science Magazine, and the abstract is otolith of 2 species of bony fishes have been found to be piezoelectric. Hence, in theory, they constitute a mechanism for depth perception or frequency analysis of sound waves, or both thereof. Okay, so your brain, my brain, your ears specifically. All right, yeah, there's chemicals, not necessarily crystals. Oh, yeah. Not necessarily crystals in your brain itself, like otoliths. However, the DNA structure itself is it is a crystalline, the proteins and the polysaccharides. However, we're talking about the magnetics of the inner ear. All right, so you got to remember the ear is an open channel. Your brain itself is kind of protected from the skull, the calcium. But here in your ear, you have a direct, portal. You have some holes in your skull, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your ears. Your primary senses, or what we would call your primary senses. I don't. Um, so the canal of the ear is like a tube, and it kind of eventually curls up into the cochlea of the ear, the inner ear for hearing, and then there's the upper or what are they called? Vesicles. I forget what they call it. Semicircular canals, they call them. This is in the inner ear. There's these two components. Oh good God. Semicircular canals. You say that even once, try 3 times consecutively. Okay. In the semicircular canals of the inner ear. Okay. They are what direct your pitch and your sense of balance, your upratedness. Fish is different. They're, in the water, and they, the sound carries through a medium, right? It's pressure waves. It's not the Schumann is radio waves. Radio waves will go through whatever, right? Concrete, essentially, except for the rebar. The rebar will mess it up. But so the um, the inner ear is it's not protected by the skull. You get not only do you get auditory and acoustic waves in there, but you also get radio waves as well. Um, so without even going into 5G or any of that, it's just that's its own thing, right? But um, just standard wireless around the house, right? Um, uh, we have the atmospheric electromagnetics around us. Okay, so um, just like the fish have the magnetic dust, they call it brain dust essentially. Um, your the crystals and the pineal, everyone's the glands. There's not, but that particular one um has been targeted. So we accumulate all kinds of stuff in there that's crystal, metal, in some cases heavy metal. And so and just and not clearing out the channels in the body and blah blah blah. Not enough exercise, not enough sun, whatever. Not proper grounding, whatever. So that's one of the causes of the headaches is the relative to the suite, okay, suite of symptoms here, as I call it, the phantom ringing and rolling, basically, ringing and vertigo, you're rolling around, ringing and rolling, uh, and a nausea, tummy ache, and upset stomach, but not from a gastrointestinal, right? That's not, however, right? Depending on your crappy diet, that can also be an effect in there as well, because the radio waves do pass through all of us. And as you accumulate the lowest of the energies, the densities, I mean, honest to God, you're not supposed to eat red meat, or just even uncooked meat. If you want it, whatever, that's fine. But humans are, and there are certain things that we're not processed. Yeah, you cooked. Let me pause this here for a second. We're speaking of health. Health related is also diet related. I had a discussion with someone once talking about the idea of raw foods. Oh, good God, there's a little bit of a kind of backstory to this, but I'll try and kind of keep it together. All right. So the discussion was, in a general sense, how did humans get this evolved huge brain relative to the size of the head, all this advanced thing. You may think the earth is, all of this is a matrix, but still, there's a way lot of fucking order. And even if it is a matrix, how the hell did that happen? And even if so, where did radio and sonar and microwave and all this, they just kind of peaked up on the side, just suddenly just over the last, not even 200 years. Give me a break. We have wireless and radio and just, shit's crazy. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Within the course of my life, what I'm talking about. Before the course of my life, when you had whale oil and the Pony Express and everything went by sea as it had for hundreds of years. They were sailing on the ocean. That's how you got Pony Express sailing. You couldn't fly. There was no flight. flight happened in 1900. You get a, hot air balloon. How like you're not going any, it's a Pony Express or horse and buggy or the sail. What else you got? Right? I mean, yeah, okay, the aliens, they're, no, they're back off, right? So it's the Dark Ages, right? Stone Ages, the Dark Ages. We're just coming out of that now. Okay? Like that, you just got to understand that. The atomic age, that's when everything is whatever, even just the thought of smashing atoms and creating a bomb like that. Just anyway, but that's, we're here. Technology, whatever. So not to derail myself, but I did. So the backstory on this: where did humans, how did our advanced brain get to be that way? And my roommate at the time, he was saying that it was, cooked foods, right? Fire is what, advanced humans along. That's what his point was. Uh, and he said they did studies on that. And so ultimately, the scientific evidence was cooked protein, basically. That not all cooked food, but cooked proteins. It allowed for the advancement of blah blah blah, whatever, whatever. And the scientific, the best scientific theory, as far as I know, within our discussion, was that the best minds had it that it was cooked protein. Fire is the invention that catapulted man into the brain size that doubled. Now my thought on this is, if it's going to be anything dietary in there, it would have to be plant related, like the ayahuasca, right? That's what these guys are doing here. They're brewing the ayahuasca or something, right? You see the little code there? I don't know if you can see it. Whatever. Doesn't even matter. There's a code. The dragonfly. Right? All right. So as it were. So within the ability to talk to the plants and the forest more freely, they will direct you, they will guide you. The psychedelics are, it's not a discussion for here or now, just but my own personal experience having dealt with it is it opens up the channels that you otherwise would not have been willing to, yeah, maybe it'll drive you crazy. Good. Like, yeah, society's more sane, whatever. What do you got to lose? Your attachment to anything that's going to crash anyway, you know, I don't know. You just give it some thought, you know. Uh, they're not all the same, and there's actively a war against them and this and all the talk of it. Well, as everything is, kind of falling down around us, like it's not in any way, shape, or form in my head a question. Are we alone? No, yes. Humans inside the human head is all alone. Okay? Just the average human. They're alone in their own thing. Yeah. They're isolated from, the neighbors, from God, from themselves, the spirit, the individual spirit of, of one's self, right? And that's sort of what this sort of leads back to is the spirit that was the life that is within the body itself, giving the body the understanding of knowing it is an intelligent machine. It's not just a dumb, look at the earth being a dumb rock, If you are here with the understanding, the perception that Gaia's heartbeat is 7.8 hertz, right? It's not technically correct, but I will give you credit for your belief in the earth being an intelligent being. Okay, I'll give you half for me on the technical side. Okay, I'll give you half credit for the understanding that she's a living thing, a living being, right? And she has a heartbeat, right? It's not on the outside of the planet like that. The earth, tell her currents move in her chest, just like the heart of the power of the heart itself is stronger than the etheric field that emanates from even a healthy body. Right? Just the two different, subtle body. They call it the subtle body, and one is the gross vehicle. So the physical body is the gross vehicle. That's what they call it in the Mahayana tradition, anyway. Uh, the gross, they break you up into three different bodies. The gross vehicle, then you have the subtle body, which is the life force of the body, your body itself. Then you have on top of that the more spiritual, it's the etheric field around you, and that gets broken up into different type of densities as well, depending on your strength of the other lower, grosser vehicles, grosser lights, if you will. Um, so this is one of the reasons why these etheric fields are why we are able to interact successfully with the solar stuff that's happening. The sun knows it's coming. It doesn't, it doesn't, you can't BS you think whatever your belief is about it's, find an end solar flare and solar flash, it's a non-descriptor of your personal beliefs. You need to physically figure a way to ground out your channel, one, two, three bodies, all of it in harmonic union with, sympathetic vibration. How do you do that? You find a great group of people who are here for the sympathetic reason on the physical, most grossest, basicest level. And so that's one of the reasons why, I do the the premiere. I've been blessed, honest to God, I've been blessed with having it just instantly. It popped up like a fucking mushroom overnight, if you will. My channel and the resonances. I've been doing other, stuff, fun stuff about the sky and watching, the clouds disappear and appear in front of me. And, like, all right, so originally my channel was going to be for the giants in the land, and there was a different kind of thing, but like, oh no, the Schumann resonances. Oh yeah, electric, atmospheric electrics. Oh yeah, all right, my guides told me, a lot about this, and there's a lot of bad information, and it's like nails on the chalkboard. Oh no, oh honey, oh you're way, way, way off. Just when people try to give the explanation, it's like, no, no, it's not high energy, low energy. Like, oh no, it's like, no, let me just, let me, hip you up to what's going on. It's because it's fun. I get to, I was interested about this, antennas and radios when I was a kid. I put up an antenna on the side of the house, and I'm fortunate that I didn't get electrocuted, or me, or it, But you got to learn the safety precautions and all that stuff. So when you're going to play with fire, you should wear some gloves or something, whatever. So uh, my view on the enhancement of the human brain, is and this is actually Terence McKenna's theory that I am backing 100%. He says the mushroom, but I would say ayahuasca as well, if you're from the jungle, and there are these magic sacred geometries, like that's kind of what it is, and maybe I'll have to talk about the time you know the sessions I took with the Church of the UDV doing the ayahuasca. um uh it's marginally relevant, and it's kind of, yeah, mental health, like it's part of it. We're talking about, this is a subject I don't talk much about, and all of this, but like the health and all of this, but it's like, when it comes time for research, uh I think I had this up on my browser for a while. This has been up for a few months on my browser here. And I just haven't gotten to it, but it's like, you know what, I need to do a thing about health and have a nice chat, with on this kind of topic and mental health and keeping your channels clear, and it just really seems to be, time for that. I field a lot of questions in the comments about this, and I wages when I go to his channel or other people, I give the the technical version. I'm not a medical guy, but I'm a technical person. I look at the human as a series of electrical, uh, devices, if you will. Your body, right? So, so me kind of giving these explanations can be a little bit, kind of a different angle on things than people are used to. Um, so, it's my belief that, as we, kind of, there's a spirit behind technology itself, all the electronics and all of that, whatever. It's Aramin, right? I'll just say the name, there's this kind of darkness to a lot of this technology was, given to us as weapons of war. And it's our duty as people to transmute this technology into wonderful, beautiful stuff instead of it being used as weapons of destruction and whatever ness. Uh, um, and so, like the evolution of the brain, can only come through cooperative means with the plants, right? It didn't come through, us, the point that I was making with that and the food and, the difference between the mushroom and the plant it's not just cooked animal protein. And even if that did it in some way, learning to cook the animals that are, our companions, uh, you know, um, okay, whatever, it is what it is. Okay. We're dominant, raw, okay, you know. Uh no. If that did have a thing, yeah, it had an effect, okay, that's fine. However, it's not until we open up the higher channels and get help from our guides, our spirit guides, and we accept that we're not all the fuck alone down here, that there's a much bigger scenario going on than the closed dome of the human head, the logical, cold blooded side of the science, right? We have two hemispheres, right? This is medical related, I think, and this is even like to the preface, I think. And I've said this before. My guides have reminded me of a very significant factor of humans is that we're hybrids, right? The missing link comes from the different experiments that they tried, and humans, were eventually given our own autonomy, in the grand scheme of things, and we weren't slaves, we weren't clones and whatever. We were given our own free will autonomy here on this planet, right? Um, and so humans have two minds, where it's this wonderful, wonderful experiment of the two minds, right? You have one that's connected to the body itself. It interprets all of the feelings and the emotions and the senses. And the other side doesn't have the feelings and the emotions, and it's not encumbered by that. It's able to step above, if you will, or step distant from, step away from uh, the feelings and emotions, and it is able to, it's given power to rule over the feelings and the senses, right? It's what, half of what the head does is it allows us to stay distant and objective and cold-blooded, like a lizard, a reptile. The reptile brain, right? They talk about the reptilian part. It's half of the brain, right? It's the reptilian half. So one half processes it in the electric, the upright, right? Without the sense of encumberment of the magnetics, of the feeling side of it, of the joints and the body itself. And so, in the sense of something that it really, really anticipates, and the adrenaline can get going, and you just forget addiction is like this. Forget the pain. Last time, hurt, ouch, ow, of when you're with that person. No, there's one part of it that's just not able to feel. It's not connecting the one with the other. It's the head, the human head is able to rationalize the fuck out of anything it wants. And how? From where? Why? What? You know, you see the kids that get their PlayStation taken away and they have a tantrum. Okay. Uh, all right. You know, people become addicted to stuff because there's two different natures of the humans that work against itself. And it's entirely possible to imagine the God, the creator. It's absolutely impossible to that. Yet there is the imprisonment of the body and those people who are, oh no, I can't imagine that, I can't see that, I don't, the picture is not here in front of me. And you know, it's, yet they'll imagine, they have their own imagination of all kinds of imaginary stuff going on in their head. They want you to justify, rationalize, and validate for, you know, them, right? You know, well, let me tell you, you want to come at me with your theory on shit? Well, let me tell you, I will come back with all kinds of other theories or all kinds of facts or whatever to knock down your little house of cards, right? Um, and this all doesn't make me a popular person in any way, shape, or form. Um, but I go to the source. I'm channeled into source. I'm imagining and using that power of imagine, my will, my power of my will to imagine the magical, wonderful, eternal forest with the amethyst flame. Your imagination itself is a power. It's a dimension that you can tap into. But there's also different densities of imagination. And you can go to dark densities of imagination if you choose to, if you choose to let it take you. You know, the door of hell is open if you choose to walk out, but you've got to accept there's a condition. Wow, you got to accept that I have a part in this, you know? And it's part of one of what I mentioned to people about the ringing and the tinnitus, just as one of the significant, you know, the engineering side of this that I can give you. That's even not though, but it's not the Schumann resonances causing this. However, it is electromagnetic of a different type. There's a lot of it around you that's much stronger than the Schumann that you can't overlook, that you need to evaluate first before going to the weakest link in the chain, right? There's a lot of, you know, as it were, right? The Schumann resonances are the weakest of them, and so you got to throw them out first. And I know you see the peaks and everything, but those are amplitude bursts of lightning in the atmosphere. Now, there's a sun's influence, there is everything that comes down, and whatever you're getting, A, U, B, C, and A, whatever, and yeah, whatever. There is solar influence on this. However, you can't confuse the solar, you know, cosmic bursts of this with what is, you know, essentially the stability of the Schumann resonances, right? It's one of the points of this that I keep making, is that it's not, in a lot of cases, the Schumann resonances that are causing this, right? Yet there is atmospheric electromagnetics, okay? And so we need to discuss this. And this is one of the videos, or this, I guess this article, you know, this video article, you know, is one of the, I'm going to post it on the Schumann resonances, but I'm also, I think, going to post this on the my the other channel on atmospheric electromagnetics. And you know, I think I'll do something with it over there as well, because this applies to not just Schumann resonances, but they tell you right in here, you know, solar, you know, solar mechanisms, solar CMEs, and you know, all this kind of stuff. So this is we're at the point. All right, so we're at 33 minutes. Okay, I'm kind of rambling. I think yeah, I am, but I'm staying within the general, you know, kind of topic of the health, and you know, we're talking about, we're working through. All right, so actually, you know, this might be a good time to take a pause, you know, but we're working through the issue of the electrics and the magnetics. This is what, you know, oh God, people think of it like, oh yeah, we're getting blasted. And I was like, it's giving me all this kind of stuff. However, there's like, from the technician's aspect, we break this shit down. You have an electric component, which is the vertical, okay, the 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 thoughts, thinking, the brain. We're talking about this in here, in the introduction. The brain is electric. You're connecting thoughts with your electrics. That's why sometimes in solar conditions you can get confused, okay, because it's electric in the air, and it doesn't have to be solar anything. It can just be heavy use of the Wi-Fi in the area, right? Or it can even be 5G, and 5G is its own thing. Maybe, I'm submitting 5G is worse off than whatever it does, but I don't want to have that, but it's around us. It's here. So these are much stronger than the Schumann resonances. So like I said, you got to kind of toss out, the scrawny kid, which is Schumann. I know that people use this phrase interchangeably of the electromagnetics, the atmospheric thingamadeal. But technically speaking, I mean, this is what I'm here to explain to you, to the best of my understanding. And when I have given incorrect information or it's changed, like the thing I do the essay, when my understanding changes, I come back and I give you my new understanding and I say, this is how I had understood it before, but like, this is how it is now, but I did a lot of research on this, a big chunk of research before I even started doing videos from like January. So for months, I started reading up everything on the Schumann resonances and I got a lot of it all figured out before I did my first video. So I had it kind of figured out based on my own experience, Um, so the head gets affected first, right? You're thinking it's crazy. Everyone's thinking it's crazy, Uh, and it makes it worse. Your heart rate is electric. You have a pacemaker, it's electric, so that you can feel, heart rate. If you're not monitoring your breathing, you don't, ground your breath, by ground your breath, I mean exhale completely. Right? If you are, whenever you're stressed, exhale everything and hold it for about 3 seconds or 5 seconds. Okay, this is grounding your breath. Make sure it's setting there on the ground. Breathing. Okay, and then you breathe in slowly from your nose with the good, not with the bad, and with the good. Right, and so you just kind of keep practice. Ground your breath. Right, you have to. People have shallow breathing. This is one of the health issues that people have when your breath is sped up. It's the adrenaline kicks in, right? And so adrenaline is caustic. And so we become flush. We don't even realize it. People we're not paying attention to the density of our body, what the physical person, our body is telling us. And so when people are around us and they get not good energy, and we kind of okay it, or we compromise that our own integrity and we give it off to schmuck, right? Schmutz. The people in the office around us that are toxic. And so it's one of the things that we have to do is we ground the center channel, right? The electric. We breathe, led by the breathing, right? So you're grounded breath. The magnetics are what's around us more often, and it comes at us laterally, which affects the joints, the knees. That's what can give you belly, tummy, conditions. So, this is one of the things that we talk about. It's not ascension symptoms or anything when we are killing ourselves with, wireless, right? Like whatever it's happening around us. This is one of the things that I make a point to say conclusively. First and foremost, on all of this, is you have a responsibility. You have the responsibility to your own health and to your own well-being, and to keep yourself protected and to keep yourself grounded, shielded from this stuff. If you can't necessarily be shielded by, having, Faraday-ish stuff around you, crystals and stuff absorbing it around you, then learn how to ground. There's many, 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 many ways to ground in your thinking, first and foremost, but then also in your breathing, also how you stand, right? Don't stand slouched over. Your best posture is your head directly on your spinal column. And when you feel your head slouching, like people that work in an office, my ex-partner, I had this discussion with him, that he would slouch. He'd be at his terminal slouching at work. He worked at a desk, and he wouldn't, bend back up and take a break. And so his head became dead weight. And a lot of people that work at a desk, their head is dead weight. And so it's stress in the back of your neck, it's all of it. Your back, you're benched up, all of it, all of it. So that's one of the ways we accumulate a charge, accumulate energy in our bodies. The entire is because we're if we in all things, in walking, standing there, just the posture that you have, conducting the ground, and not just meditating it away, like, ooh, no, it's no, you're not no, you're channeling it, you're grounding it, you're meditating it into the ground as you stand there. And if you are, if you are wearing shoes and you're in a building or something, it does not matter, because you are picturing with that imagination thing where it's going. There's a gem, a wonderful jeweled gem that's in the middle of the planet, way down there, and you are connected to it through a cord, right? So if you picture all of that just going right to the middle, of the planet, and as you exhale, no matter what it is that's going on around you, it'll be less, because you're focusing on breathing and channeling. Boom, boom, boom. And when people are in your space, not now. I'm channeling. And they say, well, not now. I'm breathing. Get out of my space. Right? Don't be afraid to tell toxic people that. Just get out of my space. I'll deal with you later. Right? I'll deal with you now as the turd you are, or I'll be nice and we can deal with you later. What would you like? Would you like the nice guy? You're not getting a nice guy now. Okay, right? All right. So, okay. Now I'm nice. Bye. You have to learn where to apply the cold-bloodedness of the protective armor of the speech, right? Because if you let people get in there, they will tap into you, and especially if they know they have you, they will keep that tap open, and you will continuously wonder why, feel drained. And instead of blaming the shoeman or some whatever, the first things that people need to do is they need to clear out the channels that are blocking the energy. One is your posture. Two is your breathing. Three is your thinking. Four is your eating, probably, and you're not getting enough guidance from the sun, direct guidance from the sun. Take your hat off. I do, sort of, kind of. When it gets hot out, I do. I like having a hat because it's a fashion. But anyway, So these are just the basic channel, most basic stuff I could ever present to you. Ground yourself, find water, even if it's a puddle like in the middle of the city. There's water puddles up. Put your feet in it. I go to the fish ladder. There's places that have running water, and I sit there and I let this is another way of grounding, is you let the water, whatever you have, take it away. You can even use the principle with washing clothes. Or washing is that you're emoting your feelings with the water, and as it's all of this, you just let it go, and it just becomes part of the circuit, and like that's another way to ground, as you become part of the ground circuit of just being with the planet, the elements, the water, the plants, everything, the wind. You just and you give thanks for the wind for what it does. Hey, but hey, can you ask nicely. Don't curse the wind when you can ask it to, hey, listen, in a couple minutes, can you just kind of move down the line so I can have a smoke here? I love you, wind. You do great stuff elsewhere. Just please, like just give me just a little chance to kind of light my cigarette, my joint or my bowl. I ask, and then you got to be patient, give it a couple minutes, and let the request go up the chain. And they're intelligent, and they will respond, and that's why I get sun. That's why I always get sun, even if I ask for rain. I've asked for rain and snow, crazy snow. No, they give me sun. They give me half as much snow as everyone else got. The rest of us got 42 inches. We got 20-ish, 21. All right, whatever. Okay, thank you. I'm not complaining about the lack of snow, whatever. So when people make money on snow, okay, like all right, it's a thing. So it's consciousness. All right, so all right. Now I think is a good place to. I'm totally flummoxed. I think I got to the point of wherever. And I had this was way more introduction, preface to the preface. What we'll do is we'll just have a break right now. I'm gonna have a drink of some coffee, or not coffee, but some mango tea or whatever it is. And so I'm gonna put this on pause for a little bit, and I'll come back and we'll chat some more. I'll have to find. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll do is I'll play. I only played half that Aaron mix last time. Maybe I'll play the other half of that because I got like an hour. I played the whole. It's 2 hours, almost 2 hours. So I'll find that, and we'll keep playing the end of that. Yeah. So that's what I'll do. So actually, so what I'll do is I'll come back from my break here. I'll read the preface and the introduction, and then before I go into the main thing, I will play some Aaron mix. Probably not half an hour. Probably like 20 minutes, or maybe 22 minutes. And I'll have to see. Actually, I'll see how long it is, and then divide that maybe in half. So anyway, more than you need to know. But I'm stalling, so you can get a cup of coffee or check your food or whatever. We're at the 45-minute mark. The lesson. This is a lesson officially. I like doing kind of longer, kind of videos, live streams, because it's like as a premiere, or not live stream, but um, as a oh, and I can't do live streams because of the Wi-Fi and all that in this place. So that's just they keep shutting. It shuts down and it just buffers. It's just not fun. So the premiere is better because it's like you know a thing. All right. Anyway. All right. So okay. Onward and upward. When I come back, we will start the article. Uh, thank you all for being here. I appreciate everyone, whether you're here at the premiere, the live, or you're um, or you're seeing it after it's been published. I appreciate you coming here. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the support. And I appreciate comments. As I say, there are no dumb questions. There are only dumb answers. There are no stupid questions. There's only stupid comments by people who should have asked more questions. Um, a question, the difference between a question and a comment is a question ends with a question mark. And I get a lot of great comments, and I read them all to the best of my abilities. And then there are some comments that have come in that are just like, oh, they're just kind of rambling, and they're just all it's lack of a sentence structure, lack of punctuation, and it's just a massive text, and it's like, oh, I can't get through this, and there's no question there even, and there may be a how is this or a question word that's in there, but it's in there. You haven't paused with a question mark, and you haven't given me a grammatical indication that you're asking a question. So that's it's part of the deal of this is that, if you have a question, you have to end the statement with a question mark so that I know it's, oh, okay, I'm borderline OCD, I think, or autistic. I'm not sure. I understand how some autistic people think, and it's like, in the order, in a certain order, and it's like, you've got to give me the hint here. It's the question, like I'm not going to answer it if it's not ending with a question mark. Right. So, uh, comments are great. I read the comments. I've said this before. I will read all the comments, but I may not respond to all the comments unless it's someone I know, or that's the thing. The terrific 10, I'll respond to you guys always. But even if it's a short reply, but from whoever else, I'll just probably just give the little heart and maybe a thumbs up, just to let you know I received it, and I think that's fair, just to let you know that I've received it. Most of the comments get a little heart, and many get the thumbs up as well, so anyway, all right, so uh we'll take a break. I know if this is the premiere, you can't really take a break, whatever, but I'm gonna pause this. Okay, we're back. All right. 50 minutes into this. 51 minutes. All right, so I'll mark the intro ends at 51 minutes roughly. So again, this is a research paper. It's a health related thingamadoozy. Um, And so, my part here is to, bring research into this, right? Facts, data, right? That's technical. I'm a technical guy. I mean, I'm an engineering kind of, facing. This is the engineering and technical facing side of the Schumann resonances, right? How to they do all of this. I've given you a whole chain of all of this, of how this is, and how the antennas, actual pictures, videos of the actual antennas, and uh, the receivers, and all of this, right? And this is what I read. You see, like I have a gazillion tabs here on my on my um in the browser, that are just on all of this, I immerse myself in the literature, and this is what I bring to you. And I only wish that I had more energy and more time that I could bring to you all of the really cool, interesting stuff that I read. There's just kind of one that I don't even have the whole article, but in a lot, I've explained this. In a lot of cases, I don't even just the abstract is enough, right? And if it's a detailed enough study, it's like the abstract itself is a lot of information in it, right? So, just getting through that part of it is enough, right? What the most basic of it, of the first part of these research papers, is advanced in itself, right? I mean, some of it, like that's how you know what is worth the time, for me, my opinion, what's worth the time of pursuing. It's like, how good do I understand the data that's presented in the abstract, okay? um these are research papers. So uh it's so that's why I'm here doing this, is to help clear up misunderstandings. And I went into the preface. I've already kind of prefaced this, and I haven't done a lot of these medical stuff before. Basically, this is a disclaimer. I don't go into the medical issues of this and this whole realm. Even though people bring it up and I talk about it in comments, I am reluctant to have this discussion for obvious reasons, right? I'm not a medical doctor. We can't have a discussion, a video where I'm talking about medical related issues if I'm not a freaking doctor, right? I mean, that's obvious enough. However, right, from the engineering and technical aspect, I'll talk to you about, what I understand in the research, right? And I don't critique the research. I explain. There's a good number of papers that I've done videos on of this very type of thing, that I've given the not even an analysis, but I've kind of broken down the vocabulary and worked with it so you understand it as well as I do. right? And if you can understand as well as I do, you're doing pretty good, because in some cases it's like, oh, this is going to be complicated as fuck. I'm lost, but there's in some cases it's, the little history on these. It's like, like I can explain what some of the abbreviations and some of the expressions mean and some of the technical jargon, I know that. So, we work through this together and we're a team. And sometimes you and I both are equally as clueless on what they're saying, but you have the information there, and that's what's fun about this is like, I don't need to understand it. We can, relate on it the best, groove on it and grok on it the best we can. But sometimes it's like, you know, I'm, I'm still learning myself, right? Just, and that's what's important is that, as I bring you stuff, I learn on it too. And, and as I go over it, I'm learning more on this as well. So, all right. So, I want there to be basically, I said with those constraints comes a discipline discussion. And as I was coming back from a few towns over today, I was on my bike coming back, I'd run an errand. And one of the phrases that kept coming to me is training is what the master provides. Discipline is what the student keeps. In keeping the discipline, the student becomes a disciple. So you're sticking to the process. That's part of what this is me giving you the best training that I can so that it latches in with you to the best of our collective ability. Um, and this is why I'd throw this out to you folks, wonderful folks, of the language that we're using. Do you understand this? And are things I need to make more clear? I know there's things I need to make more clear. Because I do keep getting asked basic questions from people who've been around for a while. And I have to remember it's in my service to just answer the question that's put to me and not have an emotional response to it. Just put it out there. It was presented to me and not think stuff, but just answer the question, okay? To the best of my ability, and it's simple, straightforward. So, but in order for me to know, I need to have the research. So, thank you for being here. 7:12. All right. Thank you for being here as a discussion on the health effects of atmospheric electromagnetics. Physiology effects are statistically. All right. So the main reason people are here is because of the linking. Put it this way: they're linking a spike on the Schumann to some kind of physical symptom. Again, the ringing. And I talk about the most common of these symptoms is the ringing and the rolling, as I call it. Uh, the um, not psycho, the phantom tinnitus and the phantom vertigo. Okay, the ringing and the roll. Um, so that's why the number one cause statistically. After I've done. How do I know this? Because on the Facebook, both the one I do, the Schumann resonance harmonics and Schumann resonance, both of those we ask questions. Especially in mine, I want to know why you're here. What's your interest in this? So I have a data set of from my the hundreds, thousands. I'm at thousands of people now, and on all right, my data set, and that also includes people who have asked, who have answered outside the parameters of, what is acceptable for the group. Like, okay, there's things, and I'm not going to go in this, but there's things people have replied. They're just outside of, like, for example, if they think Schumann is the composer, not Winifred Schumann, but the other Schumann, then there's, like, you're not, that's not what we're doing. You will be disappointed, and I'll message them. You'll be disappointed because we don't talk about that Schumann. We talk about harmonics and music, but not as you're wanting. No, 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 not going to be a good fit here. Thank you for coming by, but no. Yeah, for example. So, um, So statistically, I know I have a good data set of knowledge of why people are, interested in this and talking and wages. I'm the Schumann guy. Um, so there's a lot of discussion in the posts and the comments and the physiological effects from the Schumann, but the Schumann is actually atmospheric electromagnetics. The Schumann resonances does its own thing. It's very subtle, but the Schumann, quote unquote, the Schumann also includes to a lot of people the solar, the CMEs and the ultraviolet UVC that is coming in with the solar bursts and stuff, UVA, BC, and whatever else that's coming through, filtering through the ionosphere as light. The plasma gets held up in the upper atmosphere, right? That acts like an umbrella, a membrane, but then it's filtered. Okay, you got to remember that. Now, as the electrons are excited, it causes light. Um, light is not what people think it is in a lot of cases. Their light is excited. A lot of the light that comes from the sun, it gets caught up on the ionosphere. You got to remember that. And when, like it's the kind of conundrum that the stronger the solar bursts are, the more intense that membrane gets, the more, vibrant it gets. Okay. It holds the charge laterally this way, as a plasma. Okay. Uh, so, many folks, right? Again, there's this misunderstanding who have confused. That's basically when I say there's misunderstanding on this, is they've confused the Schumann with, the Schumann, with the atmospheric electromagnetics, and haven't separated out the Schumann resonances from the atmospheric electromagnet. Oh, please. Okay. So that's this misunderstanding, is that the Schumann is substituted, or it's confused with the atmospheric electromagnetics as a whole, and yet the Schumann resonances are very subtle, and and true atmospheric electromagnetics are much more powerful, and that's what the problem is, that it's causing a lot of the shit, and it's not really the Schumann, right? It's just a different kind of, that's what the frustration of this is, of me doing this, and why I need to stay calm, not get worked up, take a breath, and explain this reasonably, rationally, field questions as, in a cold-blooded but warm-hearted kind of manner of, of exploring the simplest kind of elements on these, because it's so fucking complicated, right? And even for me to be able to kind of understand it conceptually is it's a tall order. Okay. So it's one thing to understand in my head conceptually in the pictures I have in the upper, in the upper vault up there. However, on the physical density level of explaining it to you, in a common language where we all can understand it, that's a whole nother thing altogether. And so that's part of what the biggest part of this, of clearing up the misunderstandings, is clearing up the language that we're using in explaining these concepts, so that the phrase, the Schumann, not only do we kind of throw that out of our vocabulary, but we start understanding what was substituted for what to give you the Jimmy Jive. And it's kind of what, they don't use that expression anymore, but that's sort of what, it is. I like the expression, the okie dokie. Right? It's another one. They gave you the okie dokie, the glad hand. There's a lot of expressions for this human history that, you know, of fuckery, of getting over on you, getting one over on the next guy. The more power, knowledge is power. No, not knowledge is not power. How you apply power is knowledge. Okay. So, one of the reasons why, the biggest reason why I'm doing this, is to kind of clear up on the technical aspect, because that I saw, no one was speaking from the technical engineering side of this was only the hocus pocus of the Schumanites and the Ascensionists that I saw. Right? So, I will give you the technology side of this from my own personal experience. Um, so it's a common statement, one of those things that has come up is it's a common statement for people to say. I've seen this, the rising. I'm almost quoting the byline, the tagline that comes up is the rising Schumann resonances are causing the physical ailments or symptoms, or some variant to the narrative. Um, First, right? So that's again from my sample set of thousands between the two. The Schumann. I'm not the founder of this group. I'm the admin. So the Schumann resonance has 16 plus thousand, 16K. The other has mine that I started is I think it's like 2.6K now. So 2005 or 2600 at the last count on the Schumann Resonance Harmonics Facebook group. Okay. So one with the more people is more lively. There's more beginners. It's I've culled through the other one. I vetted them through the questions, and so it's much more tame. And people post all kinds of whack do stuff over there. Some of which may or may not be acceptable. But if it's on the topic of the Schumann resonance, I gotta let it go. Even if I don't like what it says, if it's based on the Schumann resonances, everyone gets a voice. Just keep to the topic, and it'll fly. So I with my damn data set, right? That's what I'm going by, and so that is part of the soundbite narrative that was given to people, and that's one of the claims that we're working through, right? Exactly what all that means, what the rising Schumann resonances mean, that it's not the Schumann resonances that are rising, but it's amplitude bursts, and that's the lightning, and that's a whole different thing than what you're believing that it is, right? That's why it's important not to have that misunderstanding of the rising Schumann resonances, because they are not actually rising. You're confusing the lightning bursts with the hum of the ringing of the bell. Okay. And the reason why they've given you that is because they're telling you that 7.8 is Earth's, heartbeat, and that's not it either. They've given you another lie that covers over the actual truth of what, the telluric currents and all of that wonderful, you know, different stuff that I've talked about and given you, and the different narrative, and why they're fucking up the narrative is to confuse people. And it's all belief. Believe what you want. Right? Not here to sell another. I'm not here to sell you a seat in my heaven, right? I don't get a better place. I'm not trying to convert you. I got nothing to sell you. I get right. I'm just a technologist. I'll get my reward when it's all done. Right. I have a much different belief system than you, and when it's all done, maybe we can meet up, maybe not, I don't know, whatever. But the end, I'll get at the end. My reward comes when it's done, the mission's done. If you want to, however, feel free to donate. My PayPal, start a Patreon account. Put me on there for a couple bucks, right? Support me there, that's fine. However, my reward comes from people who are really, you get it, you finally get it, and you understand, and things are more clear to you. And the great, when you start moving things in your life, I've just commented on this, someone recently, that I said this, when you change things in your life and you report back to me, wow, I tried this or that, and it kind of, the start of the ringing kind of came down, and that, like, that's it. That's it is the payment of this. Like, I can't tell you how much, right? This is a different relationship, I think, than a lot of the YouTubers have. My part in this is to get you to be kind of self-sufficient, I guess, or to be responsible, to take responsibility for your health and your well-being. And so through your understanding technically how this works and how to ground from a technical aspect, you bypass a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the bullshit rhetoric. I explain this to you technically how this works. You know what you need to do then. You can't be bent one way or another like a reed in the wind. It talks about that, the Proverbs or whatever. That if you're not properly grounded in the literature, you'll be like a reed in the wind. You won't be able to. You won't be have a direction, a clear direction. You don't have any principles. This is one of the things in this of guiding principles is giving you the guiding principles that I go by of how I have can understand this, the system at work. And so by you enacting the principles as well, it starts changing kind of things in your life. And I I can't tell you. I can't tell you how much of a reward it is. When I hear that, I just I don't get the ringing. I don't get the vertigo. However, I get my own symptoms from things I've broken. It's symptoms, right? Uh, and that's mainly where, I can't account for anyone else. But where does my pain come from? The stitching together of all the things I've broken from my own free will decisions and jumping out of a second story window or getting hit by a car or whatever. Your body also gets stitched together in the process. You have to let the process happen. You can't be your own worst enemy. You can't be cause of your own demise and expect it was something outside of you that did it. Like it's part of what it is. And to you, the best of your ability, you act in the moment. Do what you need to do to keep the external energies out of your field. And that is, and if there's nothing else that you will have learned, let it be that. Let it be that. That the best thing you can do to ground your energies is not let toxic bullshit anymore. I'll just say that. No matter who it's coming from. Once you recognize the drain and the pull, once you put up the, you've grounded into, you've grounded yourself into the planet. Once you have that code set in there, then you have, standards, a principle. You have, it's not, people aren't blowing you around like a reed in the wind. You will, that's the start of how you start kind of standing, growing, and becoming a person, standing on your own, all of this stuff. Anyway, all right. So, as I explain, otherwise, first, it's important to understand that the Schumann resonances have been around for millennia, most likely since the time that we have had an ionosphere and atmospheric lightning. Okay. Yet, it's only been recently that there's been this alleged the worldwide complaints, perhaps stemming back 5 or 6 years. Okay, so the massive, complaints of, among other things, we stick primarily with the ringing and the vertigo because I can prove the magnetic induction and the piezoelectric effect, all of whatever else you think is going on. The ringing, ringing and rolling complex suite, as I call it, uh, that that is its own subject that I deal with on a quote unquote medical, that's even remotely a medical basis. Uh, but relative to that, just that suite of complex, uh, that's only been around, that as far as I know, like maybe 8 years, right? 5 to 8 years, not that long. I don't recall ever having heard that this much about the ringing, the phantom ringing, right? So maybe within the last 8 years, I'm saying closer to 5 years, but it's like, not that long. Since the ringing, these symptoms, the ringing and the rolling, have not been there from the beginning, it's perhaps advantageous to evaluate another possible cause of the physiological ailments. God, I put that in such an erudite way. There's a huge entanglement of complications surrounding this very issue. The proper phrase here is phantom symptoms, and these are phantom symptoms are essentially they're physical symptoms with no known they're some sensation you're having, but with no known physical cause that they can find. There's tests they do for tinnitus, for real, true tinnitus, that they nail it down. And there's certain symptoms of tinnitus that are different than the stationary ringing of the phantom brand of the tinnitus. Tinnitus. Um, so that's basically what that says. There's an associate issue. Okay, I've said this before. I'll say it again. There's an associate issue of confusing all atmospheric electromagnetics as being Schumann resonance. Okay, and this is important to understand if for no reason other than, if for no reason other than, this is what we deal with here. This is what we, you know, technically speaking, I'm a buck stops here kind of guy. Okay, so this is an issue that I've brought up. I'm a buck here, bucks, yeah, a buck stops here kind of guy. You know, technically speaking, I'm a Mr. Fix It. I fix shit, right? I've been fixing stuff all my life. I don't know how good the fix it is. You know, that's up to you to figure out, I guess. But you know, I fix stuff. Ooh, hi, little me. So, oh, and just while I'm on this topic, I have two, I love having, two cameras. I have this technical ability, because of my sponsors. Thank you, Jackie and Julie specifically, Bonnie, Jackie. Um, so I do fun with it, and so I have this other, I'm able to have a little, fun with um, this article doesn't take up the whole screen. I have this little ability here, it's a theater, I'm part of the entertainment. Here's the it's how you serve it. So we're serving this on the the ayahuasca platter. And so because I have two different monitors, and I have the ability and the experience and the know-how, I have the double monitor setup. So I'm able to have a big desktop here. And so I have two monitors, and so that's why I have I have the monitor over there, and I have the one on the workspace that I use. So, um, I my guides told me that you gotta be a personality in there. So, all right, this is part of the act, the theater. This is my stage, and so so I'm like having the little two cameras. I have one where I'm looking directly at myself, and it doesn't have to be a high fidelity picture. In fact, if it's grainier, it's just more artistic. A little low fidelity picture, like, all right, it's all digital, but it's, kind of washed out. And like, no, it's good. I like these. You'd shrink it up. It's like, no, you're all grainy. Oh, good. I like that. I should be in the background anyway. All right, so confusing. All right, so we're confusing the difference of the atmospherics, whatever, and that's part of what we're talking about. It may still be that associated atmospherics is causing or exacerbating. This is really the problem, right? It's not necessarily causing it. It's just making something worse. Something that was already there is making it worse. That's what the exacerbating is. The ringing, vertigo, nausea, headache, suite of symptoms, even if that cause is not the actual Schumann resonances, but the local atmospherics around you in your house and the Wi-Fi and everything, the dimmers to lights and fluorescence. There's everything is electric pollution, electric noise that you're seeping in. These are all atmospheric electromagnetics, not just the sun. You can't just say it's the sun and why you getting the ringing all the time. At any rate, the power lines ring. You may be, like they ring, they hum. On the heavy days, they hum. Like, yeah, if you're near power lines. I grew up in the town I grew up in. There was a nuclear power plant. They had the power lines, the power main that went to wherever. There's a few of them. They cleared them out, and on those heavy days, you could hear it hum up there. I'm like, wow, as the electrons are moving, they're yeah, they're it's you can hear it, and so that's also it's not just acoustic sound, but it is also radio. It's also emitting a frequency into the air, and it's 50 hertz, but it's not just the frequency, it's the amount of that frequency, the volume of the frequency. It's not just the frequency, it's the volume of that. And so this is where we start getting into the atmospheric electromagnetics. It's not just the hum that you're getting from, you know, the 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 the, the air, but you're feeling that hum in you somewhere, and especially in your resonating in your head, the crystal. And remember, you got to remember, you have inside the inside of your skull, there is a thin layer of fluid between the brain and the skull, the inside of the skull. Okay, there's a layer of fluid, so it's not touching it. So that acts as a barrier of sorts, but that in itself is subject to, right? It goes through it, and then it goes through the crystalline structure, which is fairly hard, but then it hits that, the different density of the liquid, the viscous fluid, and it reacts. Okay. Um, okay, so these are all things important, in the health. We're talking about this. This is all related here. How you're affected by this. Okay, so here's my disclaimer that I'm not a medical profession. I'm not a medical profession. I have not studied. I have basic analogy of anatomy class, right? So going to school, I had a basic anatomy class. I had psychology. I took a couple semesters of psychology, so I have a good working understanding of the brain itself. Having read, and they showed us an actual brain and whatever, and lots of film strips. I don't give medical advice. I do not address medical health related issues. Okay. I am a technician. As I've stated previously, I am looking at human physiology as a component in the overall circuit of the geoelectric circuit of the planet itself. So that's, I look at human as a component, an electrical component in the circuit of the planet, the old geoelectric circuit. Okay, so that's me as a technician. That's what I'm doing here. Not a medical person. As a technician, I can explain well enough how a person might experience the ringing and the vertigo symptom. Okay, based on technical reasons of magnetic induction and piezoelectric effect. Yet, the inherent cause of this would not be Schumann resonance. Right? There's extraneous electromagnetics in the atmosphere. Right? We've talked about this. There are many other more local interferences capable of producing this effect on the human's body. There's multiple layers to the story. This is the actual narrative of what are the effects of the actual Schumann resonance. There are studies of the effect of. I have in my browser somewhere. There's different articles on the different physiological effects that they're linking with Schumann resonances. Okay, and there's also articles on the other atmospheric electromagnetics as well. And there are studies on the lack of Schumann resonances. And then there was a study, was it Caltech? I forgot where it was. And I just recently had kind of looked this up. Of there was a teacher who buried the kids in the ground in a bunker away from the Schumann resonances up in the atmosphere. Okay, in the where we usually are. And he buried them in the ground, and then he introduced a magnetic generator in there, and like, all right, so they felt better. All right, so so there are studies on the effects of the Schumann resonances, okay, and as well the electromagnetics, atmospheric electromagnetics. And like I said, there's studies on the effect of increased solar radiance, right? And I think it's probably 2 months ago now, I did an article on the effect of, solar weather. Increased solar radiance hits the ion. You got to remember, increased solar radiance hits the ionosphere first, then it forces down the higher voltage of the upper atmosphere. Increased electromagnetics in the atmosphere will cause adverse effects on human physiology. Electrics do one thing, magnetics do a different set of things. They're interrelated, but they essentially do two different type of things because of the geometry. One's upright, one's horizontal. We look at the human physiology as a component in the overall circuit board of the planetary power grid. The human physiology has the ability to conduct or act as a capacitor, a conduit. Okay, what's the difference between the conduit and a capacitor? A conduit allows the smooth flow of energy to channel through the form. So my body can act as a conduit that channels. I'm not holding on to it. I'm releasing it, channeling it. The capacitor accumulates a charge within its form, and a capacitor acts in some way as a battery. The difference between a battery and a capacitor is that the battery can accept two ways. It gives it out, but then it also will receive a charge. Like a car battery will do that. Not all batteries will kind of do this, but your car battery, for example, will have a charge introduced into it, and you can charge up that battery. Okay. So a capacitor doesn't. A capacitor will store it and then discharges it. So a capacitor is not meant to have a charge come back into it. So that's the difference between a capacitor and a battery. Okay. the human the human person may, through concerted applied force of the will, either channel the atmospheric energies through the body form, or the human being, through concerted will, may choose to accumulate the atmospherics into the form. So you can either channel it through you, or you can accumulate it within your form. Right? I'm just using the word form as a, the body, meaning your physical vessel, the grosser vessel. The mind and brain operate through electrics. Okay, so I'm giving you a couple different considerations here. And when we're talking about the electrics, the effect of the electrics and the effect of the magnetics. Okay, and you got to remember the electrics are really quick, short-lived, but I mean the electrics are short, quick-lived. For the very, we see spikes and we say, oh, it's spiking, but it's the middle of the day usually, and it spikes and goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Right? Whereas the magnetics are consistent, right? The horizontal movement, and they stay like as a gravity. I've explained it before that eventually, after the Schumann resonances, what do I say? That the Schumann resonances are caused by continued magnetics that build up and stack, and it creates a harmonics. Okay, it just kind of holds it intact. So, because of the constraints, it acts as the Schumann resonances act as a type of gravity. Okay? Like I explained this before. So first is the electrics, and we can get the electrics either through a discharge within the planetary, through seismic activity. We get a charge of amplitude that's metered through lightning, through upper atmosphere spherics, L sprites, seismic, and we have there's also the Birkelands are a higher. The Birkeland currents are what basically convey. They magnetically follow the lines of the planetary grid up in the upper atmosphere. Okay, so there's different types of ways that the power is you know, an amplitude signal is conveyed through the atmosphere. The Schumann resonances, you got to remember, are a range, the pico. Yeah, this is one of the things. It's not stronger currents, and even though there are other currents and other, you know, channels of electricity in the atmosphere, the Schumann resonances are of that pico range and not the nano. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why this is very kind of complicated to explain, is because there's two different levels. It's a factor of 1,000. Okay, at least 1,000. That's why it's important to understand that the Schumann resonances are that subtle. So the mind brain, your nervous system's trying to get back to the text here. Your nervous, the electrics affect you with your thinking, the firing of the neurons, the electrochemical responses in your body, um, functioning. Your organs function through electric signals up to the brain. They get, the autonomic system, I think that is, or the limbic system or whatever, regulates the flow of all your organs. And the like the heart has that type of electric charge, and so that's one of the things that's affected is the firing of the heart. Okay, the pacemaker. Your organs themselves have that electric charge that goes in it. The electrons. Electrons. They're everywhere. Electrons, they're fucking everywhere. Like you can't escape them. It's how energy moves through something. So, the electrons are electric. The upright, the vertical, has a pretty instantaneous effect. But the more longer lasting effects are the magnetics, which are coming at us horizontally like I said, in the muscle, the tissues, the joints. And you can feel it. I feel it that way. And even in the marrow of the bones as well. Like that's a thing as well. Um, the brain organ operates largely through electrics, yet the actual nerve material will respond. The fiber, the nerve fibers, will respond to the horizontal force of the magnetics. Okay, I'm going by my own, generally speaking. Although I can physically prove this, I'm also telling you what I feel. Like everyone has these different, the ringing. Well, I don't hear people talking about their joints and their ligaments, and that's me. I've been beat up. I've been around the clock. I've been rolled around the neighborhood, around the block a few times, and so I ground the fuck out of everything so I don't get the ringing and the lot of shit and the vertigo. I have too good of a balance on my bike for you to give me vertigo. Oh no, hell no. I'm too balanced and I'm too channeled on my bike. Like, yeah, no, you're not giving me a vertigo. I dance. I am, Lord Shiva's, the master of the dances, dance partner occasionally, sometimes, when Shakti sits out, but I'm honored. So the Lord of the Dance, that's me at the club. So you're not giving me vertigo. However, right, I've been beat up, bashed up, so my ligaments and all that stuff feel it more. It's part of what this discussion is. It depends on what you've been through, and it depends on the levels of kind of attainment you've got of clarity and peace and harmony that you're working on as to how well you're going to be able to ground in or ground out the energies. And honestly, if you're still working on some of these lower densities that you're trying to clear, the higher up kind of shit is going to be more difficult. And that's part of one of the things that I explained here is that from the technical aspect, no one is getting anywhere in ascension or whatever, rising up in vibrations overall until the lowest densities are cleared. And it's like the ballast, an anchor, right? No one's getting anywhere. The density, the lowest densities get in the way of the clearing. And so that's why it's really super important in order to stop the ringing and the vertigo and all that sweet, that you have to clear out all of the lowest densities and make yourself the best conduit. Don't get in your own way. Be a friend to yourself. Get out of your own way. Clear all other people's shit, right? You're in your own way when you're muddling in stuff that maybe you shouldn't be, right? Minding other people's business and then people give you bad attitude and, I don't know, right? This is just things that I, have known for myself that I've done. And so, we need to clear out other people's stuff. Don't accumulate other people's garbage and then expect you'll be all right. Oh, and also the skin conducts electric galvanometric. That's kind of what that is. It's a electrostimulus response of the skin. When you get nervous, a lot of times we sweat. So it's one of those responses of your body is that you duct charge. You're when you sweat, you're reducing the impedance of your skin. Normally your skin would kind of repel a certain amount of charge, but when you sweat, you get nervous, you're changing the conductivity of your skin. And so, in certain cases, like, if you've been biking or whatever, I'm sweating, you'll take that in. But it's a nervous sweat is different than a physical activity sweat, right? That's what you would call a flush. The difference between being a flush is it's just a surface charge. You're not kind of drowning, you're not drenching, it's not kind of moving, right? That's the difference, is it's kind of stays on the skin. And so that, I ride my bike and it was hot, I sweat, and so it's all dripping and dripping. That's different than a nervous kind of clutchy uh, sweat, a cold sweat. Sometimes it comes across as, depending on where you are and what's going on. So these are all things technically we want to talk about. We should talk about. There's all these different physiological effects from the different manifestations of the frequencies. I'm not sure the best way to phrase that, but I think you're with me and you know what I'm saying. Okay, now that I beat that dead horse, okay. Sorry, I wasn't beating a dead horse. Charge is voltage, which is a plus or minus. Okay, um, uh, which is amplitude. That's the vertical conductivity channel, they call it. These verticals operate, and the uprights. Okay, all right. The verticals. All right, we're talking about the verticals on the chart, the Schumann resonance chart, the electrics that you're seeing. Those verticals operate on the upright supports of the spinal column, which is due largely to cerebral spinal fluid, is my best guess. So you have your upright, it's like an antenna. Your spinal column is like an antenna, okay? That all the nerves bundle into your spinal column and then they go up your head. So it's like, you also have your nerves on your extremities, you are also the antenna of your nerves on your legs and arms, but the spinal column itself is a bundle of nerves. You got to remember that. So it's a big concentration of wires that potentially can get conducted through this means. Okay. The cerebral spinal fluid, CSF, is of is one of the intelligences of the body. It carries intelligent messages through it, and as is a support function of the brain organ in communication with the body suit organ. Okay? Your skin has a galvanometric response, which is measurable through an MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging, or other radio microscope system. We do have an external auric and etheric fields, yet these are only reflections of our internal energy centers attached to the various organs of the body. If one has weak lights or is not in good balanced health, these surrounding fields will be kind of lame and not very strong. Consequently, people who are not in good balanced health will attract negative emotional states from those around them. This is a spiritual principle of like attracts like. Birds of a feather flock together. Humans are placed directly into our environment. We have holes in our head. We're absorbing the environment immediately, right? Like in us. Yeah. The things in the atmosphere, like, get into our pores. Our pores breathe. And so it's one of the things, like our skin is an organ. We are, the skin itself is an organ. We directly feel or sense the environment. We resonate in sympathetic vibration with the surrounding environment. This starts at the crystalline structure of the genetics themselves. DNA is comprised of amino acids, which are proteins and polysaccharides, organic crystals which intelligently adapt to the immediate environment. We are made to directly interact with the environment at our most basic physical level. At our core, we are social beings, and we directly interact with our environment and the people as well through the principle of morphic resonance. It's one of the principles, it's a big core principle, is morphic resonance. We resonate in sympathetic vibration with our environment and the personalities around us. We can choose to accept this passively and let it have its way with us, or we can choose to act as a conduit to the atmospheric charges that we would otherwise be accumulating. Remember, real change can only happen from within first. Be a friend to yourself and you will have the change you desire. Find time to take care of yourself, make time to get well, and receive the healing that the universe has in store for you. Right? You have to be if it gets bad and you ask for help, help will come. However, you need to make time in your day for the help to work. If the doctor gave you a prescription and you didn't take it, you can't say the prescription didn't work. You need to do your part. And that's part of what I'm motivating and pushing you to do, is take responsibility for the physiological stuff to the best of your ability. You may not be able to change what's going on around you, but you can accept it in a different way with a different mindset. And if you know the electrics are making you crazy, then stop thinking. Just release it into the horizontal. Stop being in charge. Stop needing to focus and go forward and moving. And we're doing, no, beating a dead horse in some cases, or you're beating yourself into being a dead horse. Like, no, if it's not going in your favor, you need to stop. The universe is clearly giving you signs that it's not working. Your forward progress is being impeded. Don't get frustrated. Stop. Take a breath. Exhale. Come in. I have said this to people. Come in off the ledge. Getting ready to jump. Come in off the ledge. Close the window. Have a seat. Take a breath. Breathe. Exhale. Have a tea. Like tea? Okay. Coffee? Right? Soda? Sugar water? What would you like? A Red Bull? Let's chat. The tales was I said this in the comments to someone. I think this was on Facebook. The 1001 song. I can't find this again, but it was something I had read. And the tales of 1001 tales of Milarupa. 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 Right? Sage. He talks about the red Dharma and the black Dharma on the way. Dharma is your pathway. The red Dharma is a certain pathway. The black Dharma, certain pathway, like the dark side, if you will, right? The red side, the red Dharma is the way of the warrior. The black Dharma is the dark shadow all good. It's all fine. But before, right, I'm tasked with coming at you. Before we do, right? Let's have some tea, right? Before we gotta, engage in battle, let's have some tea. Right? Please. Get off the ledge. Take a seat. Light a fire. Put some tea on. I have some water. You have some tea bags. You have a cup. I have a cup. Let's make some tea. That's the most important thing out of all of this. When this is all of this finally hits this, shit finally hits the fan. That is what will run the day. That. For before this gets bad, let's just have some tea together and talk. Right? We've lost, coming from my heart, humans have lost the ability to sit down and have tea together. Put it simply like that. Not a drink of alcohol, just some tea. Are you all right? You get coffee, that's fine. You can have a coffee and a tea, but let's come to a meeting on that. So I'm going to find on that note, 1:45, almost 2 hours into this. Oh my god. This said it was supposed to be a five minute read. I knew it wasn't going to be a 5 minute read. All right. So I'm at the research paper right now. And it's not that I don't think it's that long. It's not that long. But however, I do tend to chat on these. Let's introduce some music into the mix. The other half of the Aaron mix. So let me find that. Okay, all right, we're back. Okay, there's me speaking. We got music here. All right, so we got a little music in the background. I have my monitor turned off, so it's not hear it. But I'm looking at the little meter. It's bouncing. All right, so I'm gonna fade off into music soon. I always wanted to be a DJ. I was a college DJ when I went to in London when I was there at school, and this is kind of like me being a DJ, again. And it's like, but just, like really, it's my own studio, and like I'll play with the F I want. So all right, so I'm gonna turn me off, put this, and just have the title thing up, and have it kind of so you can sort of read it. And I'm going to, it's a good pausing point, but I'm gonna, throw on something so I can eat, get it cooking, and then come back, and then read the rest of this, and then I'll eat while this is downloading. And I just think that's a good plan. So, all right. So on that cheery note, gonna move on to music, and we will meet you on the other side, I think. So on that cheery note.
stood steadfast in your love. You erased all my pain and my heart you have claimed. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
All right. All right, it wasn't 22 minutes, like 28 minutes. Bing, 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 bing. Thank you, Mr. DJ. All right. Soup's on. Wrong one. Okay, there we go. Nice, nice. All right, there. Okay, hopefully you were studying the material that's here. There. Whatever. Um, thank you for if you're still here. It's 2:17. Very nice. Okay. So, um, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. There we go. Wash myself out. I'm reflecting off of my coffee pot. I think that provides a good, full balanced, reflectivity. There we go. Nice, nice. Okay, and once again, we are on my website, Schumann dash resonances as a plural.com. And this is the post from the 29th of June, which is like yesterday. Wow, it's 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m. where I am. I'm -5 UTC. All right. So, all right. So this is a paper, Schumann resonances. The name of the paper is Schumann resonances. See, Schumann resonances, right? The plural. They plural. The people that know what they're talking about pluralize Schumann resonances. A plausible biophysical mechanism for the human health effects of solar, by Neil Cherry. Natural hazards. This is from the publication Natural Hazards, volume 26, pages 279 331, and the year is 2002. 2002. Okay, so the abstraction. A large number of studies have identified significant physical, biological, and health effects associated with changes in solar and geomagnetic activity. So S-GMA. And so I will pause myself right here to say they're just giving you some background. There's studies on solar and geomagnetic activity, what I'm calling associated atmospheric electromagnetic. So we're also talking about the Schumann resonances. So we like I'm pointing this out because it's really important to mention this. There's lots of studies on, and I welcome people with the studies. I never turn away anyone with studies because I want to read them. So if you have actual, if you're in the comments or whatever, the website or whatever, and you have links to stuff, please, do put them in the comments so not only me but all of us can benefit. So thank you, and this I think this particular, as a sidebar here, this particular article, I was over on the .edu. I think it's academia.edu, and they have I'm on the mailing list, and so I think this was, I had gone through their other stuff that they had sent me, and I think that's how I got this. So anyway, I'm just saying that, we're pointing out that there are studies in addition to the Schumann resonance that are associated with the changes in the solar and geomagnetic activity. Variations in solar activity, geomagnetic activity, ionospheric, ion, electron concentrations are all mutually highly correlated and strongly linked by geophysical processes. Oh, that's a mouthful, ain't it? Variations in solar activity, so fluctuations, geomagnetic activity, okay, which is the IMF, the KP, basically it's the KP index, and ionospheric ion electron concentrations. And so it's the density, that's what we're talking about kind of too, is the density of the ionospheric layers. Okay. They're all mutually correlated and strongly linked by geophysical processes. A key scientific question is, what factor is it in the natural environment that causes the observed biological and physical effects? Okay. What factor is it in the natural environment that causes the observed biological and physical effects? Okay. The effects include altered blood pressure, okay, melatonin, which helps you sleep, okay, increased cancer, reproductive, cardiac, I'm running out of fingers, uh, and neurological disease and death. Death. It seems fairly serious. Um, depending on this your state, your own personal state, you as the house, the canvas, you as the the person with the free will, right? I keep using the word canvas, the form, the body, all of this, the instrument. Your body is an instrument. So, depending on how well you're able to ground what's around you, you may get, any of these effects, physiological effects. Many occupational studies have found that exposure to ELF fields between 16.7 hertz and 50 to 60 hertz significantly reduces melatonin levels. Okay. Exposure to ELF fields between 16.7 and 50.6 hertz significantly reduces melatonin levels. All right, so hold on a sec. Okay, so this is why you all came here. All right, so let me refresh. Crapshoot when I do this. All right, okay, good. All right, nice. All right, so when we're talking about 16 is right here, 16.7. Okay, that's right outside the range of this second harmonic here. Okay, so I just want it, because people, I don't want to mention anyone by name, but there's people that do a corroboration of the Schumann resonance, this chart here, the Tomsk, with, they associate it with a brainwave frequency. And it's kind of misleading the way they do it. All right. So the 16.7 is here. So anywhere from, right, we'll just call it 16 to round it down. From 16 to 40, or the 50, 60. So the commercial power lines, depending on where you are in the world, are either at 50 or 60. In Cumiania in Italy, they're 50. I think here in America it's 60. I'm not sure if America it's 50 or 60 hertz horizontal frequency, the hum. And you see it in Cumiania, which I have shown you. I'm not going to show you right now, but the red, actually, hold on, let me find it. Yeah, I am going to show you. Yes, of course I'm going to show you. 225, 25. This red line right here, okay? I know you can't see it all the way over, but you see enough of it. This right here, see the spike at 50, and then you see that line. It's like 51, actually, technically, but close enough to 50. And you see, right, that. So when we talk about those, the commercial power mains, or mention this, those of you who've been around a while know this, and we've talked about this. In fact, little fun historical note. This line right here was the first comment that I had written to Wages World that got his attention relative to, what's going on with Schumann. And then he looked up, turns out, and I had already by that point, put a couple videos out. So when he went over there, there was some stuff already there, kind of, hastily cobbled together. But, it was there nonetheless. So we said, wow, like this guy knows something or two or three. So anyway, the red line at Cumiania, that was in my comment. And that's something that I point out of local interferences, right? What's that? How close is the localist interference to mask? I don't know, but that's Kumyania, and they warn you of that, right? They warn you, they tell you of that. Be careful because you're getting a false signal from the industrial area that's local to us. And all good technicians and all good scientists, right, and engineers give you the parameters, the the operational parameters to it, that outside of this, you'll find this and that, and be careful of the local interferences from the industrial area around you. If you're looking at this, you have to understand that there's influence from the artifacts, we might call them. I call them influences. Just here we're talking about that, but think another, the video and doing the video editing, they call things like that an artifact. It's left over from some other process, and so that's kind of it's an interference, but it's an artifact. So I like thinking of it like that. All right, so right, so the 50 or 60, and I just showed you Kumyania is at the 50 hertz level. They are also associated with the same and very similar health effects as the solar and geomagnetic effects. All right. All right. So this is one of those things that's we're start working on a technical level. I think anyone of you, that people that know me, have been around for a while, know I deal with technical stuff. I don't deal too much with the number. It's necessary. I give the daily readings and that, but I don't deal with the equations and the really, the hardcore science kind of aspect to it. Okay. So this is part of the part of this is finding where the mesh of kind of the art and the science, have to meet up. And so we're talking about actual, we get into actual number values. And this is where we start, talking about like Ohm's law kind of thing: frequency, voltage, and impedance. Okay. That's really important to understand. When we're talking about a natural, when I talk about the wire being able to pick up the Schumann resonance signal, I talk about a natural impedance or a natural, barrier against movement, otherwise, external movement to its own, internal structure, like of the wire. So the membrane itself, we're talking about, like your cell in a membrane. I'm willing to believe this is a generic thing about the cells in general, and not like any particular, like brain cells or whatever. I don't know, but the cell membrane, if you've seen it under a microscope, you have cells or the membrane sheets. So it has the cell membrane. Your cell itself has a membrane. The cell membrane has an electric field of the order of 105 volts per centimeter. Okay. I want to, oh man, I'm going to have to pull up the scale of the, why not? I'm the deep dive here. I'm the deep dive guy. This is going to be going all night, 2 hours. Oh, I've done live streams for 5 hours. 2 hours is nothing. We're just getting warmed up now. Let me hunt down the scale of the relative, the prefixes. I've shown this before, but I think it's important to go through this again. The scientific prefixes of the place of where a pico and a nano is. Okay, and then relative of volt. Okay, where we're talking about orders of magnitude of 1,000, and then another 1,000, then 1,000 after that. Like as you start going back, minus a 1. All right, so this is a volt per centimeter squared. It's a density per centimeter per centimeter. All right, so it's not. It's a. I'm sorry. It's not. It's a two-dimensional. It's per centimeter, so it's not volume. I didn't mean to say volume. It's square centimeter per centimeter. Okay, so the 105 volts. Okay, So the ELF brain waves operate at about 10 to the negative first volt. Okay, so that's one. For those who are not mathematicians, I'm not really math, but this is where we start getting into some like the decimal places, and this stuff is it's math, it's numbers, it's cold-blooded. Sorry, got to get cold-blooded here for a little minute. Um, so we have -1 is one place. Okay, so instead of it being 10, it's like 0.1. Right? So that's how they do the scientific notation, 10 to the negative first. Okay, well, it's -1. It starts at, the -1 is now a decimal. The negative starts with the decimal going the other way, or I guess that way, my right. You know, um, the positive numbers move to the left. The decimals move to the right. Okay, so move to the left, move to the right. Uh, and mathematicians shuffle, you know. So the real numbers move to the left, the imaginary numbers to the right. Uh, I don't know. That's a quasi joke. So that's what anyway. So when we zero it up to the decimal, -1 is the first decimal place, so it's 1/10, right? So -1 is 1/10 volts per centimeter. Okay, so that's pretty significant there. Now we could figure out a frequency if we were good. We use Ohm's law. I'm not good. I'm not going to look it up, but we have the 0.1. Okay, so now this is the point where the to prove this point, I'm at this point where let me move this decimal point. All right, so um, I'm gonna hunt down. Let me find the Pico thing. I'm gonna go to my friend Wikipedia for this. Hold please, system processing. Please wait. Thank you. Okay, so I'll get my big fat face out of the way. So you should hopefully be able to see that well enough. It fills the screen as I'm looking at it. But this is right here. So we're talking about 1-to-1. This is 0 to uh the there you are. So I don't give a chance to read that. One is a number and a numerical digit used to represent that number in numerals. Okay. So I'm sorry, so 10 to the 0th is 1. And then we were just at deci. So that's 0.1, right? You see that? 0.1. All right. So as we go down here, oh, look at this. Zepto, yocto. Look at that. Wow, look at how many zeros that is. All right, so we've got nano. All right, so this is the scale of the Earth, right? It's a -9, right? You see that 10 to the -9th. You see how many zeros that is? Well, that's the Earth's natural field. The IMF, both the IMF and which is the interplanetary magnetic field. Okay, that's the upper ionosphere. Uh, and then the Earth itself is measured in the nanoscale, okay, for whatever worth, blah, blah, blah. And then you see the little n, and the micro is one below there. All right, so then you see the pico. Pico, that is 10 to the -12th, okay? So you see how many zeros this is, all right? So, okay, so, all right, so, see that? All right, just leave this up here for you to, see, for dig on it, you know. I would otherwise play music, but I don't think I need to. So I'll just and then they all have words for a billionth, trillionth, right? So pico is a trillionth in the short scale, and then a billionth in the long scale. I have no idea what that doohickey is. However, it's Spanish. Interesting. All right, well, that's where it comes from. Interesting. Oh, and the other one, Danish, femto. The next one after that is femto, the -15. And I guess I kind of wonder where it means 15. All right, so it's Danish for 15. All right, and then what's atto? Atto boy, -19. Oh, I'm sorry, -18. I don't know, that doesn't tell me anything. Zepto, that doesn't tell me anything. All right, boo. All right, so, okay. All right, so back to where we are. All right, so, that's giving you a relative size of the scales of what we're talking about when we're here. We're at the, this is the deci scale here. This is what your brain waves operate at, that the deci scale. All right. So then we go back to the Schumann resonances, which are negative 12, right? 10 to the negative 12th. That's pretty gosh darn significant. And then the other one is the nano. Remember nan 9, right? 9 places. How did they figure it out? Like, oh wow, hey, nano, 9 decimal places. Oh wow, hey, you didn't learn nothing else the whole rest of the video that you can go. So you learned out 15 femto, it's 15 places, and nano is 9 places. Pico Spanish. Uh, okay, there you go. All right, so that's the range. So that's your scale, your brain wave, of the voltage of your brain waves. The cell membrane itself is an order of, it's 1,000 times, right? We're now going from a negative 1, right? For the non-mathers of us, right? You're going from this one here, negative 9, the brain waves themselves, the power of the brain waves at negative 10, negative, point, the deci, point 1, going from point 1 up to 105. That's another, that's a jump. So it's now 1,000. You've moved a couple decimal places. All right. So that would be 1,005 deci. That would how it be, 1,000. If you measure, you're squaring up between your two units. This is the positive 105, and this is negative. So that's the, 1,050, volts. That's the difference between the two. We're comparing. That's the natural impedance, if you will, the ability, that natural field, that shield. Okay. It's your ability to withstand, right? You see the difference of scale that we're talking about, right? The electronics around you are operating at not 9 decimal places, few thousands of time, thousandths of times less sensitive than the brain itself. Okay, this is what the research is telling, right? You got to understand, put it together from this relative to your your own kind of, you being your own worst enemy, right? Look, your power, the power of your brain itself, is stronger than, much stronger than, the Schumann resonances. Doesn't necessarily mean you are fit and up to changing the resonances, because those are constraints. It's like the string on a guitar, right? Or a drum head, right? The ionosphere acts like a drum head. I've given this analogy before. The ionosphere is a great drum head, right? The Schumann resonances are like guitar strings. You can bend them, but they're not rising significantly. They're held intact. Okay, so you gotta, and the drum head gets tightened up from the solar irradiance, the interplanetary magnetic field. Its primary its primary obligation. Okay, it protects us, it layers us in some most wonderful ways. And so that's why it's important to remember what, where, what for, wherefore, okay? Which system we're talking about, of it's the drum head layer or the guitar strings, like the harmonics. There's a series of them, we just saw them. There's a series of harmonics that are 4 or 5, sometimes you see 5, right there, harmonics. These are the guitar strings. Good way to look at it. These right here are held in a form of gravity. Okay, the Schumann resonances are forming like in a form of gravity. They're a band. They're a horizontal band. They're not rising. These bumps and the white mode amplitude. Those are like, I've described them as hitting, like ringing the bell. Okay, like if you have a bell, the amplitude strikes ringing the bell. Another way to look at it, from the guitar or the string, a musical instrument. I love using these kind of, physical, examples. The the guitar strings, like those are the strumming of the guitar string, right? And it depends on the mode, color of it that it's giving you, is giving you the intensity of how hard the guitar is being struck or plucked. Okay. And so as you move down to the yellow and the red and the green mode from, 1, 2, 3, 4, that is a more gentle strike, but it's coming at the end. It's not separate from it, it's at the end. So it's like kind of like the attack and the decay, if you will. And the musical term, some people know that, when you're setting up a wave pattern on in a oscilloscope, you have parameters, the attack, the sustain, and the decay. So somewhere in the settings of the sustain, attack, and decay, you have a sharp, you can have a sudden rise, no sustain, and then decay quick. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, of the difference of the modes between A, B, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the colors. The striking. This is the striking. They describe it as a striking of a lightning stroke, the hitting of the bell, starting the process of the ionosphere as a the waveguide from the ionosphere, the waveguide of the Earth as a bell. The atmosphere is a bell, and we have this equal graded illustration that I can give you of a guitar, and the strumming of a guitar, and the wave pattern of how you're creating the notes, on the notes on the strings, the vibrating of the strings of the Schumann resonances, and you have some interesting vibrational patterns here, and you see that these are not they're not upright, right? They're magnetics, right? Except that it's not the white is not moving too much, yellow, and the red's not moving a lot, the green certainly is moving, okay? And then we're looking at also these count in there as well. So you have a rise in the white mode of the frequency. The frequency is being plotted this way, okay? You got to remember the frequency largely is being plotted on the horizontal because it's part of the magnetics. The frequency is the wave, the peak to peak wavelength of the magnetics that are coming in, the quality, okay? So that's why you have these being relatively calm. You'll have, these, the yellow and the red, especially the yellow and the red equal orange. Right? So, all right. So anyway, so those number values are in the pico. You got to remember that. That's in the pico scale. All right. The ELF brain waves operate at, a very high voltage of itself. Your brain operates at a decivolt, right? Your phone voltage, the voltage of your phone. All right, I think I've shared this before, may or may not have shared this before, but from the tech, when we're learning about, computer repair and the internal voltage of the like the laptop, your your desktop, your cell phone, right? So electronics, the modern electronics that we have, the wall voltage is 120 volts. You have an adapter, a little turtle thing, in some way, that drops it down to a usable voltage, which is the battery itself uses 5 volts. So the little adapter you have that you can plug into the USB on the computer, that operates at 5 volts. Right? The internal voltage of the battery, the main system of your computer, operates on 5 volts. That is what the battery operates at 5 volts. Okay, however, the internal signal that gets broken up into 3 volts for the smart screen. Okay. So out of the 5 volts that the battery is holding, your smart screen as a device itself operates at 3 volts. Perhaps 4. Okay. It's a device. It's got a galvanometric response to it. So when you touch it, generally speaking, it's always on. It's a device always looking for a signal. So that's always on. It's always receiving, always waiting for your signal. So the screen itself is operating using much of that 5 volts of the battery. Okay. Now a laptop is different. Your cell phone, I'm going to stick with a cell phone. A desktop, a regular computer that, like that's a different thing as well. However, the internal voltage of your desktop computer is 5 volts and 3 volts for the operating system. So the main heart of the computer is the processor. Okay. So you may have a dual core. Everything's like a dual core now, or maybe a quad core. There's a lot of things, or like 8. There's 8 cores. So that's where the rest of that 2 volts gets broken up into your phone. That the whole rest of the screen itself is taking up 3 volts, or more, like 3.2, I think. Or like 3.3, and the rest of the most latest technology is the 8 core, right? So it's basically 8 individual processors that are able to do 8 individual things at one time. And so you need to have the random access modules to be able to process that. And not, I guess not to get too technical, but one of those is actually the graphics unit to power the screen itself, right? Obviously, you need one of those processors just for the screen itself. Okay, so the internal voltage of the processor, as you get down to each individual out of 4, let's just say 4 processors, we're now not talking about 2 volts going through the processor. We're talking about a micro voltage, or actually a decivolt. We're talking about 0.3 volts. So you have to, when you're a tech, you got to know the different voltages at different points in the system, tell you, to say if it's working properly, because it's the voltage goes in from the battery, and a lot of it is held in the battery. Okay. And then when it gets leached out as needed, it's holding a charge. But again, the phone itself, the screen itself is sucking in a lot of the battery. And so just do yourself a favor. When you're not using your screen, wipe it off, keep it clear, so it doesn't always think that there's a signal there, right? I do that. My fingers get greasy, but I try to do that whenever I can, is wipe off my screen, so it's not always thinking there's, it's needed. So that's kind of part of the message of the tech, is like, clear everything out, like backups, remember to back everything up, but clear out the browser, clear out the temp files, whatever. So so I just want to give a comparison between what we're talking about, that your phone voltage is operating at really close to the order of your brain waves, right? Like if you want to talk about what's really truly causing your problems, the closest that matches up to the ELF brain waves is the cell phone, right? And the cell phone is at 5 volts, right? And it's kicking out, 51 nanoteslas, okay? So you have the intensity of it and voltage, and then you have the width of it and the magnetics. Okay, the field, the strength of this field, the height of it is voltage, and the width of it is nanoteslas. Okay, so that's a pretty big, right? We're talking about the field of your domestic electronics is a much, much, much more bigger field of concern for you, or should be for you, than are just the human resonances, which are way down that way. You saw how subtle those fuckers are. Pico, right? That's why you need that's why Schumann himself had trouble getting the resonances of his name. You got to remember that. Even after he got his shit together to get an antenna and was able to measure it, he still couldn't get accurate Schumann resonances, right? Not to the point that Russia and the other places have, right? You just got to understand that Schumann went through. That's why his name is on it, because it took him a couple years with one of his graduate students, Koenig, to figure out the electronics to detect in that low of a freaking range. Right? We're talking about 3 hertz or 0.3 hertz, which is a huge wavelength in EMF. Huge. It's millions of like kilometers at a pico range. So there's the frequency of the wave itself, right? How difficult it is at 3 to, at 8, even 7.8. Get that, it's not 8. He figured it out at a different, he was saying it's 8. It would be 8. Or actually, he said it was a different number, but it's 7. They measure it at 7.8. All right. So, his calculations were off. Well, I mean, close enough. And so you just have to understand that, like, this is the very real reality of your life, here by the data. What's, when I talk about this, it's not that, and I'd say this is why I'm saying this. You have this is scientific data. This is the research. This is why I'm telling you that it's not that the Schumann resonances themselves are causing this or exacerbating it. It's that you have to look at the local interferences first and the things that are closest to you. And the solar radiance, okay, is another. It's actual atmospheric electromagnetics. Yeah, it interacts with the Schumann resonances, and this is why we're talking about. Okay. Fish, birds, and animals have been shown to respond to ELF signals that produce tissue electric gradients of ULF/ELF oscillating signals at a threshold of 10 to the negative 7th to 10 to the negative 8th volts per centimeter. All right, so that the -7 and -8 is where we're into the nano range. Okay, so after 9, we start moving into the pico range where the Schumann resonances are. All right. So this is one of the Earth's magnetic field itself is in the nano range. So it's in this here range right here, right? So, we can see, we know, right? I know. That's why when things change in the magnetics of the planet, okay, right? It isn't even necessarily the Schumann resonances so much as the magnetics of the planet. You see the animals, right? Dr. Ben over at Suspicious Observers, he talks about them. He discusses this because of the otoliths and all of the stuff, the fields, magnetic fields changing and shifting and all of the shit. The animals getting lost and stranded. They're not lost. They're just following the magnetic lines. Right? So where their traditional migration paths have been are changed. And same thing as people following the GPS, bonehead truckers, right? It's not to be mean to them, but they're following the GPS and they go off the road, right? Do you think the GPS wants to mislead them? No. Planes landing at other airfields, right? They talk about this as part of the shifting of the magnetic fields and the magnetic poles, and as the sun itself is changing as well. This is one of the things that needs to get dealt with and addressed in a person's life are these the electric gradients of ULF ELF oscillating signals, right? So and oh good God, it was like near the beginning of the this video I showed you, the otoliths abstract, very short, about the you know the brain dust in the animals, and that being a large part of how the animals are honing in to where they need to be. Okay. Um, this involves non-linear resonant absorption of ULF, ELF oscillating signals into systems that use natural ion oscillating signals in the same frequency range. Wow, that was a mouthful. Non-linear resonant absorption of ELF, ULF oscillating signals into systems that use natural ion oscillation signals in the same frequency range. Okay, that's what I read the first time. Doesn't make much more sense this time, but you're getting a sense of what we're talking about. They're linking up, um, the frequencies, right? They had just shown you earlier, 16.7 to 50, right? Approximately it's the upper range of the Schumann resonance. A long-lived, globally available natural ULF, ELF signal, the Schumann resonance signal, was investigated as the possible, plausible biophysical mechanism for the observed SGMA, so solar gravitational magnetic. It is found that the Schumann resonance signal is extremely highly correlated with SGMA indices of sunspot number and the KP index. Okay. The physical mechanism is the ionospheric D region. Here we go. This is what's more important than just the name Schumann resonance. Pausing them. The physical mechanism is the ionospheric D region, ion electron density, which varies with solar geomagnetic atmospheric and forms the upper boundary of the resonant cavity in which the Schumann resonance's signal is formed. This provides strong support for identifying the Schumann resonance signals as the SGMA biophysical mechanism, primarily through a melatonin mechanism. It strongly supports the classification of SGMA as a natural hazard. Okay, because it can, form, all this kind of stuff. All right, so there's a lot you can take away, like my job is to give you the information, like you can form your own opinions on what's there. Um, I natural hazard. Right? Okay, so it happens that the name of the publication is Natural Hazard. Okay, so they ended this well enough. Good job on that. Um, that's not a joke, but that might be a punchline. At any rate, I notice such stuff. I am a writer. Um, Gilding the lilies. I think that's what they call that. They may or may not be. May or may not perhaps be so. All right. So there's a lot of good information there. They're talking about melatonin, right? And so um, we we want to we want to look at this stuff. We want to evaluate this stuff. When you talk about natural hazard, like the hazard is you holding on to it. Okay, we are. I'm a metaphysician. Okay, I'm not a doctor, but I am a metaphysician. Right? So one of the things is I'm helping you move the etheric, beyond the range of what the medical, the doctor, right? The etheric. I'm an etheric technician, right? So I'm helping you channel, these energies the best that you can so that they don't accumulate, right? This is what we're talking about. Altered blood pressure, we're talking about from the beginning, your pacemaker of your heart, right? You can either accumulate and hold on to the charge, or you can release it. So what's affected by you holding on to the charge? Blood pressure, the melatonin, which is right here, okay, the pineal, increased cancer, right? The crab, the darker, pH. And you got to watch your here. And with cancer and some of these living viruses, uh, you need to watch your pH. Okay, that's one of the things. Neutral pH. I'm not going to go more into that, but that's one of the ways of keeping your body groundable, keeping your vessel pure, if you will, if you can. Like watching what you intake, salts, the electrolytes, and the uh the things that are going to accumulate, fats, things that are fatty and rich foods that tend to accumulate in the joints. Like, yeah, I dig ice cream. I have ice cream. Okay, so like great and groovy. However, okay, so you got to be these things in moderation. Candies. I'm bad. I think I have a candy. No, I finished this morning. So anyway, so these are all things that we need to be aware of. So reproductive, cardiac. Your reproductive is your fear, pineal. I'm sorry, your fear. Now your pineal is up here. Your first center and the second center. The first one is fear, and your second one is guilt, I think, shame. We hold on to uh, fear, guilt, and shame. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So we have, the second one up. That's where your belly is. So the reproductive, is the belly chakra, the sacral. That's the orange one. So that's, we can accumulate, gastrointestinal problems from holding on to, bad conduct of others. I'll just put it that way. Um, Cardiac, the heart, we talked about that, living with the constant rush, stress, especially where we feel it's life or death. It accumulates in the skin, the galvanometric, response of the skin. Um, and we hold on to these things in different parts of our body. And so that's one of the things that we do. Is hold on to it in the heart and the head. We're not clearing out the confusion of the head, just let it be. And then be okay with no forward progress or these things, like whatever. There's a bunch of, neurological stuff, the firing of the electrons, the dendrites, the neurons in the head to form thoughts, to form new thoughts, to form new memories. So the electrics, as the electric comes down, remember, it's coming from the ionosphere, it's pushing down, it's been forced down, right? So it's not direct radiance from the sun as such, it's being forced down and it gets filtered out and prismed. The atmosphere in the sun in the daytime acts as a sun. It acts as a filter. I'm sorry, prism. The date. Oh yeah, I am tired. It's almost 5 o'clock here. It's 4 o'clock. Um, so the ionosphere, the lower ionosphere, acts as a prism of sorts from the upper. You have to think of it that way. It gets activated. What would otherwise be a clear substance gets activated, and light passed through it as a prism. There's an invisible thing there that's solid like a glass, but the atmosphere acts in that sense with the light, that it kind of filters it out, and part of it is the upper atmosphere takes a lot of what comes from the sun, and we get, as electrons are forced down, we get light that's very bright these days. You haven't noticed. My God, the light out there is so bright. It's changing, and the brightness of the sun has to do with the change of moving from uh, hydrogen to helium. I think it is shift of going from the system of how the sun is. That's under change. It's just we're getting. Eventually, there was going to be a solar flare, but humans will live through that. It's pretty. That'll be a. I don't want to be here when that happens, but it will be. It's one of those kind of things that happen cyclical kind of thing. There's a lot of different cyclical cycles. I'll just get off on a tangent here for a minute before I fade off into music. There's a lot of different cycles that are at work here, and we are now at this point here closing out a lot of cycles. Right, the great calendar is as short as there's a calendar for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Sunday. There is the great calendar of the 26,000-year rotation. So this is what I refer to as the wrap up of the wrap up of the wrap up. This is the end of karma. This is the end of the line. This is the grand splitting before it goes back. Like it's a new cycle. It's just the closing out of the coalescing of a lot of cycles that are closing out now. So before things truly close out, we are blessed and fortunate to be able to, kind of get together, like what I was talking about. The thing that makes it worthwhile is people telling me what they've learned and the things that they've been able to clear, and the amethyst, flame meditation, the clearing that Jacqueline, Jacqueline, uh, Grace, I sent her, and we have it on Patreon. We've been on Patreon. So these are all things that we have to do of ourselves, so that we're not holding on to. Right. This is kind of the point of it, that you can either, they're coming, you hunker down, you bunker up, hunker down, bunker up, batten down the hatches. These right here. Right? Channel the energy through you. Don't do any on the heavy KP days. Don't do any. Don't work. Relax. Go in the shade. I have to be, when I'm out there. I work, but I have a tree. I have a seat under the tree, and so that I can relax when I'm I work for a few hours, but I need to kind of keep refresh my battery and drink water. Put your feet in some water, drink water. All right. Okay, so this is now 3 hours, 9 minutes into it. It's time to put some music on. So I'm gonna go get some food. It's cooking soup. So I'm gonna play this, and then we will and then I'll say goodbye. We'll be done. Y'all are wonderful. And I think what I'm going to do is wait a while. When you post these, when you upload a video, you can, it has to go through the process. It goes through process. But I can wait to make it public before it's, done. So I think I'm going to do that with this one. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to download and let it process. And then I'm going to, kind of put it online and maybe do a notice through my community page or whatever. Anyway, so I'm rambling. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate the love and the support. Please comment and ask me questions. Question ends with a question mark. I really like the feedback from the people, and I like to know what you got or what you've understood, or any of that. So on that cheery note, take me out, Mr. DJ. Hey, Mr. DJ. All right, so thank you all for being here. I appreciate the love, the comment, the supports, and I am loopy right now. So time beat. Namaste. Okay, this thing has about 6 more minutes left, or 5 minutes. Um, so I'm going to wish you all have a good rest of your night. I'm going to basically just I'm going to upload this into the computer and then crash. Then whenever I wake up, I'm going to do like I said. I'm going to put it out there for the public, and I'm going to have it as a premiere. So I probably do it like it'll probably wind up being like 8 or 9, 8:30 ish in the morning. So that's my time, Eastern Standard Time. It's UTC -5. So anyway, on that cheery note, thank you all for being here. I appreciate the love, the comment, the supports. Ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. But if you don't think that there's any dumb or stupid questions, just so you know, I don't look at them that way. Don't think that it's still work to have to try and figure out what people are saying and how to give a response. So even the easy stuff can still be a challenge to have to explain it to you in words you understand. So just remember that, what you may think is simple to me may not be, because I still have to translate it into a good answer for you. So, and that's work. Anyway, on that cheery note, have a good rest of your night, and namaste. Thank you for being here. Love you. there it is. Have a good rest of your day or night, whichever you are in. Good night, everyone. Much love.